At highway speeds, the average text takes your eyes off the road for about 5 seconds. That's enough time to travel the length of a football field. Stop texts, stopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a successful motivational speaker and trusted life coach, Nancy knows how you can live the life you want regardless of the challenges you face. Although she's legally blind, Nancy's mission is to inspire others to overcome obstacles and live life full out. Call in at 800-333-0001 to ask Nancy for advice on topics such as relationships, finances, business, health, and more. Just call 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Thank you, everyone, for listening to the show today. I'm Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And today we're going to be talking about effective communication. Now, we all know that that is something that is just crucial, whether it be, in intimate partnerships or career or just overall communication with anybody that you come in contact with on a daily basis. Being able to convey our thoughts, when we're frustrated, when we're happy, when we're in need of something, and finding the right words to convey that message, aside from body language and all the other ways in which we can communicate. And so today we're going to be talking about communication, really doing what we can to move all of us forward, to motivate ourselves to become better communicators. We're going to be opening up the phone lines. You're welcome to call in. That number's 800-333-0001, 800-333-0001. And as you go along today, if you have any questions or, are inspired or have your own personal story to share, we'd love to hear from you. Feel free to email us at connect@livingfullout.com. Because honestly, we get emails weekly from people who have a story they want to share and they feel it would be inspiring to our audience. And we want to welcome you to give us your feedback as well. Also, if you want to hear a replay of this show or check out any of our past shows, go to livingfullout.com, click on the radio button, and you can access by clicking on the Spreaker button all the shows, and including the replay of today's show. So again, communication, important, right? I mean, it's one of those things where it's always better when communicating to go with how you most passionately feel. Now, you don't want to be over passionate. You don't want to be, kind of in your own way in terms of saying only what you want to do. Like, you don't want to be so intentional that it's all about you, not about the person or people that you're communicating with. But you want to bring passion to what you're saying. When I coach my clients, a lot of times I'll ask them, how do you feel? Or they'll say something to me and I'll say, okay, tell me that one more time, but just tell me honestly how you feel. And it's interesting how sometimes when we communicate, we talk from our head. We tell people what they want to hear. We try to sound smart in the way that we explain something. But when you lead with your heart, you will never go wrong. When you feel that nervous butterflies in your stomach or fire in your belly, that's when you're in the zone. When you come from that place, when you're communicating with people, and then if you invest in people, and we're going to talk more about that later in terms of finding out what their needs and desires are, that's when true communication becomes very magical and is able to blossom. We're going to go to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show. Hello, welcome to the show. Hi, thank you for calling in.
My question is that I've been working a paid internship for the past 10 months, and I feel that I'm not getting as much out of it as I had fully anticipated going into it. I'm currently working a position hoping to learn and take in as much as possible from that position, but it seems to have hit a dead end. And I've talked to my manager trying to get more responsibilities and try to learn more. Mm-hmm. But it hasn't really changed, and so I'm not sure where to go from here.
Well, that's a great question. And, whether it be an internship, a career job, your profession, whether it be a relationship, sometimes things do have kind of a beginning and an end. It doesn't mean that this internship is something that perhaps you're meant to be in any longer than the 10 months. I mean, it sounds like you've done everything right in terms of communicating to your manager and trying to take on more responsibility. Here's what I would say, though. Is your manager, is he the only person you can go to? Or is there perhaps someone even above him?
Well, she's not the only person I can go to, but we work in a specific department within the company, and I do help out other departments a lot. So what I try to do all the time is, talk to other heads of other departments and say, look, if you need any sort of assistance, let me know. I'd love to help. And
okay, and are you saying that to them more verbally, just in a conversation?
It's a little bit of it's more verbal in conversation, and it's also I also write emails to them too.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
And they actually recently, the head of the marketing department for the company I work for, said he'll get me in on a few projects.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, here's my thoughts on where you are. I mean, you're doing everything right. Just so you know, thumbs up, green light. You're doing everything right from I can tell in terms of communicating. What I would just try to do is really focus in on what you bring to the table. What projects have you been successful at? And really try to work that angle a little bit more in terms of getting more of those projects, because obviously you're really good at them. You also might want to consider, where is there a gap? Where is there lack within the company that perhaps you can also come in and fill in that space? And sometimes you might need to interview your manager, talk to other department heads and say, hey, listen, you know me well. I'm a tenacious but giving person, and I'd love to find out where you may have more needs that no one's fulfilling. I'd like to be that person. And so sometimes going that angle is good, because now you're kind of building yourself into being the perfect candidate. But beyond all of that, don't ever be afraid of change. A lot of times, people get so comfortable, or, in the case of sometimes internships or even, career positions, you want that promotion, you want that job, so you kind of stay in it. But perhaps you need to let go sometimes of an opportunity to grab another one. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It seems like things are going well. I would just, I don't know that I want to drop the internship.
Okay.
Because that poses a big risk on, whether or not I'd be finding another position that's also a paid position. So what you might want to look at for that is, because paid positions are important, but there's a lot of internships out there. You have to decide if you're getting all the growth from this experience that you can. And that would be same for if it was not an internship, but just a paid job. You know what I mean? You just want to make sure that in whatever you're doing, that you're utilizing your talents in the best way, and that you're being challenged, and that you're needed, and that you're, all of those things go into making sure that it's the right fit for you. I'd love for you to stay in touch with us, though, because so many are on the same path you are, trying to decide this. And so you're very relevant with where other callers have been with our show. So definitely keep us updated on how things go. Yeah, I'd love to.
All right. And thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. So there is somebody who I believe is doing communication like to the 10th degree. I mean, he's doing a great job, but it's tricky to navigate, tricky to figure out, can I be doing more? We're going to be going back to the phone lines. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi. How can I help?
I have a question.
Uh-huh.
I tend to have a very addictive personality. I was addicted to smoking and have recently quit, but I'm still taking nicotine gum to curb the cravings. I'm also addicted to coffee, playing games on my phone, and poker. Whatever I do have a lot of addictions. What do I do to reduce the negative addictions in my life?
That's a great question. Here's what you want to consider. Because whether it's cigarettes, For some people, it might be drinking. For you, it might be poker or video games. You have to look for each of those addictions. You have to look at what is the buy-in? What do you get out of it? Okay?
A lot of excitement.
A lot of excitement. Okay, that's good.
Yes,
and maybe
always high in my life.
Right. But you want to replace that feeling with more healthier ways. Okay, now it isn't to say that you can't go play poker once in a while, but if you're playing it every day, or if it becomes like a gambling addiction, then you want to find some other way to get that fix. And for some it may be working out, for some it may be seeing friends, for some it may be taking on a new hobby or taking classes, and you could do it in moderation. Okay, and with smoking, or in some cases for some people drinking or other drugs, you really just want to try to nip that in the bud and get it out of your system, because we want you to live a long, healthy life, okay? I want you to play lots and lots of poker games, okay?
Yes.
But in order to do that...
I would go to the extent where I would go to Vegas and would skip my meals and just play poker. I don't even realize I missed my meal timing.
All right, and here's the thing. After all that happens, or maybe throughout the night, in your mind, you know that's too much, right? You know it's too much. So you have to be your best friend. You have to be your best advocate. And again, find ways to replace that high with something else. And, in fact, I'm going to blog about that this week. I think that'd be a great blog topic to put out there. So stay tuned on that. And I really thank you for calling in today. And, we're wishing you all the best with getting over these addictions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So we're talking about communication today, and shortly we're going to be coming back with our inspirational guest, Kerry Magro. His story is just so amazing, and personally, well, I'll tell you, I have a definite connection with him. We'll talk about it shortly. We'll be back.
Hey, what's up? Thinking about you. XOXOXO. Want to snuggle. ... JK. Hit me back. You getting these texts? ? We should hang later. I miss you. Holla at ya, boy. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you at home? Where are you? What are you doing? OMG. You are making me mad. Are you with your ex? You better text me back. I'm waiting outside your house.
Relentless, aggressive texting is like sending an angry robot to deliver your message. When does the robot become dangerous? Let us know at that'snotcool.com.
That'snotcool.com.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I can't come to the phone right now because I'm abusing my children. Not just verbally, but physically. I'll get back to you.
If only child abuse was this easy to recognize. If you even suspect abuse, call Child Help at 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. We've helped millions of people help millions of children. All calls are anonymous and confidential, so call 1-800-4A-CHILD or visit childhelp.org. Child Help. Trust your instincts. Brought to you by Child Help and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
In the world of fairy tales, Sleeping Beauty had 3 good fairies to protect her. But in our world, protecting the beauty of the forest is the responsibility of everyone.
Listen well, all of you.
9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans and can be prevented.
We'll all pitch in. If humans can do it, so can we.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Log on to SmokeyBear.com to find out what you can do. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. A professional motivational speaker, Nancy can help you overcome obstacles.
Communication. And this next guest is not only inspiring, but he just is such a great example of living full out. He was nonverbal from 2.5 to 4 years old, and pretty much through a lot of his life due to autism. I know we all hear about autism. It's become more and more in the news every day, but to actually have experienced it, to have gone from being nonverbal to today, he coaches and assists other adults with autism. He actually has a master's degree in strategic communication. I mean, it's just fascinating. So I'd very much like to welcome Carrie Magro to the show. Welcome, Carrie.
Thank you so much for having me. It's glad to be
Carrie,
here.
oh, man, you are, like, when I first met you, I just was in awe. I was still in awe because I have a nephew who has autism. He's 9, and he does say some things, and I know that you were nonverbal for many years. But today, you speak so well, so eloquently, like one would never know. And so I'm so glad that you're here with us today to educate us on your journey and really allow us to get to know what it's like for you, for the person experiencing it. So thank you again for being on the show.
Oh, not a problem. It's really just great to be here during April, which is Autism Awareness Month, to really get the word out about autism in our communities, because there's so many beautiful stories of people who have autism, and being able to have their stories heard in our communities is so important. So we're just really grateful for the opportunity to just talk to you for a few minutes today.
Absolutely. Now, can you take our audience back a bit? I mean, obviously, it was around 2.5, 4 years old that you were nonverbal, that your parents got the diagnosis and kind of found all that out. Can you share with us about that time? I know you were young, but you probably have been told the stories.
No, definitely. Really, the main thing that my parents struggled with was me being nonverbal until I was 2.5. They saw some signs early on, but the big thing for them was always me not being able to speak. And until I got to 2.5, it was just a very, very dramatic time in my family's life, but then also what do we do from here? So my parents spent about 18 months going through vigorous doctor's appointments and really just trying to figure out what was going on until I was finally diagnosed with autism when I was 4, with a specific type of autism called pervasive-developmental-disorde, not otherwise specified. And it finally gave my parents, they were really able to breathe a sigh of relief, because they finally understood what was going on and what they could do to ultimately help me with my autism diagnosis. So it was a long road coming. Therapies were definitely a big part of what got me to where I am today as a 28-year-old adult on the autism spectrum. And it was definitely a long road, but I can say that I'm going after my dreams today every single day, and it's I just want to see this opportunity for all of our kids.
You know what? I love that. And again, you're such a light in what can seem such a lonely, dark world for so many families going through it, trying to crack the code as to, how to help their loved one, how to help their child. And so can you walk us through a little bit when you were younger and, when you were in school and starting to develop friendships and all of that, what was that like for you? I know that a lot of times, children with autism, they're in like the special education classes but more so, I can imagine it being frustrating, wanting to communicate but not being able to. What is that like?
It was It was tough. When I was finally diagnosed with autism, I had just begun really to speak in complete sentences for the first time. I said my first few words when I was 3, and then started speaking in full sentences around 4 and 5, and it led to a lot of emotional issues for me. My parents really just were very disappointed that I didn't have the abilities to really speak out to them when I needed things. And a lot of that was due to my autism diagnosis. And once I got into school, it was really tough because I was one of the only kids with autism in my classes. None of the teachers really just trying to communicate with the people around me. Bullying was a huge issue for me in school, especially when I was in special ed public school setting, because for the first 4 years of grade school that I was in the public school setting, we were in the basement for all of our special ed classes were in the basement, and we were kind of secluded from the entire school. So whenever we wouldn't be in the basement, it seemed like a lot of the kids were like, well, who are those kids? And it led to a lot of bullying. It was a very traumatic time in my life, but my saving grace was when I went out of district from middle school to high school for kids with learning disabilities, because I really felt that I could communicate for the first time without any worry about being bullied by the kids around me. And it was because all those kids had something that just made them who they were. I mean, bullying kind of stopped completely for me, and it was one of my saving graces in my early development.
Well, I love that. And you know, for anybody listening today, that's an option, right? I mean, public school is an option, but so is going to a school that's dedicated towards helping people with individual needs that they have. And what age group, what age did you go to that school?
So it was just when I was getting into 5th grade in middle school. So it was just when I was about 10 years old. I started to transfer to that school. And my parents actually had to fight tooth and nail with the school district to give me an out-of-district placement, because it was an out-of-district school for kids with disabilities. And my parents, love them to death, actually paid out of pocket for 2 years to get me out of district while they were suing our district for an out-placement school setting, because at the time they didn't want to have me. The school system thought that I was in the right setting for me, and my parents really didn't agree with that. So finally, Go ahead. I'm sorry. No. And then just finally, after the 2 years, we finally won our case, and they decided to, the school system decided to pay for my out-of-district placement, which was breath of fresh air for me and my family.
Oh, yeah. Life-changing, really. Now, did you have siblings, or were you the pride and joy of your parents?
I was the only spoiled child. And,
okay. How did your parents work with you over the years? I mean, I know you had therapists of all different kinds, but, you know, what was that interaction like? You had the therapist, you had your parents. Who was involved with you through these stages of, you know, becoming more verbal?
So with the therapist I did have, along with having occupational, physical, and speech therapists who were helping me for those 15 years, I also had in-house therapists who would come to the house every once in a while to check up on me on the weekends, to kind of give me additional therapy. And a lot of that was out of pocket based on my parents, because when I was first diagnosed, my parents had never heard of what autism was before, minus a movie came out in 1988 called Rain Man, and that was kind of their first introduction to what autism was. So my parents, while I was learning more about what being special was to me, my parents had to learn about what my autism diagnosis was. So we all were just learning together at the same time, and the learning curve was definitely tough at first, just because of my communication delays. But my parents became my biggest coaches, my biggest advocates, and they created the wheel when there really wasn't a wheel of therapies and supports out there for kids with autism because of the diagnosis rates being so much lower. It was about 1 in every 1,000 kids being diagnosed with autism when I was diagnosed when I was 4. So,
and what is that? And what is that number today, Carrie? Do you think
the number today in the United States is 1 in 68, and
Wow.
in New Jersey, where I'm from, we have the highest prevalence of autism, with 1 in 41 being diagnosed. So, 100% increase in the past decade. So it's crazy how the number has risen.
That is amazing. I mean, there was a time where wasn't it around like 11 years old, you were asking your parents about, what do I have? What is it?
Yeah, it was a crazy time because I actually went up to one of my special needs teachers and asked them, why am I special? And they told me that I should speak to my parents about that. And literally that day after school, I went up to my parents and asked them what being special meant for me. And they sat me down and basically told me that I had autism, but that didn't make me any less of a person. And that introduction to autism really was, I think, the most perfect way of explaining it to me, because once I got older, I could kind of just go to my parents anytime I needed to learn more about my diagnosis.
I mean, I love that, and I'm sure lots of parents are thinking, I should do that with my child now. But, Carrie, we're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back, and we're going to tell more about your story because it definitely keeps evolving. We'll be right back.
Ferry residents, this is Tooth speaking. I'm sorry, did you say credit? Credit Ferry? Perhaps you have the wrong number. Actually, no, I'm not familiar with the Credit Ferry, and I know all the ferries. We're a tight-knit bunch. Why don't you tell me more about what the Credit Ferry does? Maybe it'll ring a bell. The Credit Ferry magically raises your credit score so you'll be more likely to receive better interest rates? I'm pretty sure there's not a Credit Ferry. But I do know you can improve your credit rating by paying bills on time and keeping your credit card balances low. Glad I could help. Me? Well, I leave money under children's pillows. Adults? No, kids only. But I do know a good dentist.
There's no magic to improving your credit, but there is help, and it's free. Go to creditferry.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the Consumer Bankers Foundation, the Leadership Conference on Civil Rights Education Fund, and the Ad Council.
I want to change some things.
I want the moms where I live to have childcare they can trust.
I want to make sure my little brother and his friends have a safe place to play.
I want to help more kids graduate from high school.
Help more hardworking families learn how to budget and save.
I want more of my neighbors to have access to health care.
Want to make a difference? There are so many ways you can. Help create opportunities for everyone in your community.
I want to change what I see around here.
United Way is creating real, lasting change where you live by focusing on the building blocks of a better life: education, income, and health.
I mean, I just want to see more smiles on my sidewalks.
Reach out a hand to one and influence the condition of all. Give, advocate, volunteer. Live United. For more, visit United Way at liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a trusted life coach, Nancy will help you overcome setbacks and embrace all life has to offer. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for taking time today to listen to the Living Full Out show. I'm Nancy Solari, and today we're talking about effective communication. Obviously, that's a critical need when it comes to connecting with people and being able to exchange in emotions and being able to build relationships. But what happens when you can't communicate? What happens when you're dealing with a disability or a diagnosis that has you nonverbal, has you struggling through therapies, find the words, find the right way to make those connections? We're here with Kerry Magro today. He is a great example, honestly, and so inspiring to me, having been diagnosed with autism as young as 4 years old, and today 28, and just thriving. I mean, a master's in strategic communications, helping adults with autism. There's no limits to this powerhouse. So I'd like to welcome back Kerry. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you were just telling us about the conversation you had with your parents at age 11 when they, sat you down and explained, really what autism was and what it meant to be special. And I think that conversation is so critical, that whatever diagnosis, whatever disability anybody has, just being educated and learning, the ins and outs of what we can do to become more resourceful and evolve and become more thriving, more functional. So I think it's great that they did that. And obviously you had therapies, I believe you said up till like 19, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Now share with us, you graduate from high school, which is an awesome achievement. At the end of high school, at what stage were you with your autism? Were you fully communicating with your classmates? Were you still in special ed classes? What was that like for you?
So at that point, one of the biggest things for me was I became more of an autism advocate when I was in high school, because that was at the time I really wanted to understand more about autism and just what it meant to me. And that's also at the time I wanted to accomplish one of my biggest dreams, was to get into college. And I knew going into high school, I really wasn't at the level I needed to be to succeed at a post-secondary level. So I really just tried to boost my GPA as much as I could, really getting involved with tutors and really taking my therapy as seriously as I could. And by the time I graduated high school, I had got the great opportunity to get accepted into all. At this point, once I started college when I was about 19 years old, a lot of my difficulties with autism really had to do with just transitioning. Transitions to going from a high school where everything was kind of structured to a college where you really had to self-advocate for your needs. So transition was a big difficulty for me compared to when I was a kid, and then also just similar challenges with communication and really just making friends and relationships, because that was the time I wanted to have my first girlfriend and just find love on the spectrum.
Well, and let's go to that for a second. Who doesn't love to talk about love, right? So
exactly.
So at what age did you start engaging in dating? And, did you have to explain to the women in your life what autism was? What was that experience like?
It was definitely a very interesting experience early on, because there wasn't really any resources out there about autism and love and autism and kind of dating overall. So I had my first kiss when I was about 15 years old, and that entire experience, just from having like sensory issues and kissing someone for the first time, was something that was so overwhelming in so many different ways.
I bet.
Then after that, I started dating, and when I turned 18, I had my first girlfriend, and I was with my first girlfriend for about a year and a half. So in that that time, I really began to understand relationships, but I think it also made me understand more and more about just understanding other people's perspectives. And us talking about effective communication today, the necessity of open communication with the people you care about to avoid conflict as much as humanly possible if you can.
Absolutely. And you wrote a book about that, your experience. What was the title of the book?
The title of the book is called Autism and Falling in Love, to the One That Got Away. And I wrote that book 2 years ago. After 6 years of dating and relationships, I decided to write the book to really help kids on the spectrum who want to fall in love and be in a relationship for the first time.
You know, I'm so glad that you did that because, again, you have insight into this journey that only one like you and all those who are struggling with autism and in whatever stage they're at, you know, you're living it. You have lived it, and you kind of come out the other side, and now you can verbalize it for others. And I'm just curious, you know, you work so much with adults with autism, and I'm curious at what age that is, if that's teenage all the way up, or what quote quote adult autism is. But what advice do you have for families whose children are, you know, starting to get out of that phase where therapies are so accessible? Because depending on the state, you know, those therapies do get cut off at some point, you know, that it becomes harder and harder to get that support. What do you say to those families?
Just keep fighting, because at the end of the day, we know so much more about autism now than we did when I was first diagnosed with autism. And we have so many people who are part of our village who are trying to help our loved ones every single day. I mean, just to throw out the number, I mean, we have 43 states right now who have passed autism insurance reform to help these kids get the support they need. But also at the same time, we need to understand that autism is a lifelong disorder, and these kids aren't magically going to grow out of autism. It's a lifelong disorder. So when we look at diagnosing these kids, we should get them as early a diagnosis as possible, because I constantly say early intervention is the key. But once these kids age out of school at the age of 21, and for many of them, they lose all their supports and kind of fall off the cliff, as we say in our autism community, that we're getting them the right supports when it comes to housing, employment, post-secondary, whatever it is. We need to look at autism as what it is, a lifelong spectrum disorder. If you met one person with autism, you met one, and really just try to establish a rapport and communicate with these kids every single day to make sure that their needs are being met, just like anybody else, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And so we shouldn't lose hope. So the good thing is, you know, after 21, when some of the programs do disappear, what sort of options are out there for adults with autism in terms of, you know, what could somebody research or look into in their local area in terms of programs?
Sure. So there are a lot of fantastic resources out there in our community for adults. At Autism Speaks, one of the leading national science and advocacy organizations in the world, they have a resource guide for all 50 states that share different resources in terms of assistive living facilities, adult groups that are helping adults on the spectrum. And there's just so many different resources for adults, but not only adults, children on the autism spectrum as well. So that's definitely a great resource. And also, if anyone wants to learn more about the post-secondary opportunities for our kids, in 2011, I started a nonprofit organization called KFM Making a Difference, which I can gladly say, since it started in 2011, has given 26 scholarships for students with autism to pursue a post-secondary education. And that was kind of with me realizing my dream of going to college and not really seeing any scholarship aid for people with autism, wanting to help them. So go to websites like autismspeaks.org, kfmmakingadifference.org, because there's so many different awareness resources out there to really help our kids who are aging out and becoming adults with autism.
Well, thank you for those resources. And Carrie, how can someone reach out to you if they have questions? Because you, again, are just so informative, and I can tell that you really are passionate about this. How can someone reach out to you?
Absolutely. Well, so I have a personal website. People can reach out to me at carriemagro.com. I'm also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram if you just search my name at Carrie Magro. And then also through my nonprofit, KFMmakingADifference.org, you can contact me there as well. And I do consulting, so really just trying to help our kids as they grow into adults, not only with autism, but special needs, because we're all in this together, and the more people we have in our village, I think the better. So if there's anything I can do, just let me know.
Oh, Carrie, you've done so much today already, and I want to say personally thank you for being on the show. It's just one of those things where it warms my heart to know that you've come so far, and for everybody whose children have autism on various levels, everybody can grow, can evolve, and so thank you so much for being on the show, and we'll stay in touch with you definitely, and thank you for sharing all that great information.
And thank you for everything you do with your show. You are inspiring so many people, and just keep up the amazing work that you're doing. It's really going a long way.
Oh, thank you, Carrie, so much. And everybody, that was Carrie Magro. If you have any questions, contact us as well at livingfullout.com. We'll get you in touch with Carrie, and we'll be right back after this break.
Hey, Dad.
Yeah.
You remember that ball game we went to a couple years ago?
Sure.
And how you didn't have enough cash for 2 hot dogs, so you walked with me on your shoulders until we found an ATM? And then when we got back to our seats, we never saw the hot dog guy again.
Well, I don't remember all that.
Yeah, that was an awesome game.
You never know which moments will be the ones they'll remember forever, so take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 1-877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Medical mistakes claim tens of thousands of lives every year. The healthcare community is working on it, but you can help. When you communicate with your doctor, when you ask more questions, you reduce your risk of suffering a medical mistake. Doctors can't answer if you don't ask. Help reduce your risk. Questions are the answer. Learn the 10 questions you must ask. Visit www.ahrq.gov. This message brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, and the Ad Council.
I'm getting a catcher's mitt.
I'm getting ice skates. I'm getting a devastating flood.
Adults are generous. We're even giving kids global warming, but we can still reduce greenhouse gas pollution. Go to fightglobalwarming.com. Brought to you by Environmental Defense, the Robertson Foundation, and the Ad Council.
There are many sounds in your daily life. Ones that make you smile. Ones that help you relax. And there are some sounds that can help save lives. Wireless emergency alerts, now on many mobile devices, use a unique sound and vibration to bring you critical information about emergencies in your area. With updates from local sources you know and trust, you can be in the know wherever you are. Learn more at ready.gov/alerts. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The odds of this Alaskan-born pitcher being selected to the Major League Baseball All-Star Game 6 times? 1 in 48 million. The odds of this fast-balling philanthropist winning the World Series 3 times? 1 in 3 million. The odds of this man having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 110. Hi, I'm Kurt Schilling. Learn the signs of autism at autismspeaks.org. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council. Major League Baseball trademarks used with permission.
Living Full Out is about communicating, connecting with others. This journey that we're on, this experiment of life, this great, the highs, the lows, you name it. It's meant to be shared. But how do you share how you feel? How do you share what you're going through? You use that through effective communication, verbally, through body language, and beyond. Here's to you living your life full out.
You're listening to Living Full Out with Nancy Solari. As a certified life coach, Nancy can help you to overcome challenges and start living full out. Call in with questions live at 800-333-0001. Once again, that's 800-333-0001. And now, here's Nancy.
Well, I can't believe it. We're in the final segment of the show. It always goes so fast, and I miss you guys through the week, and then we're back again on Saturday, so I get excited every Saturday. But anyway, what a great interview from Kerry Magro. I want to say thank you again to him. We're again taking your calls this segment as well. Again, that number's 800-333-0001. And again, my name is Nancy Solari, and this is the Living Full Out Show. And each week, we try to bring guests to you that are going to educate all of us in terms of different disabilities, diagnosis, times when people are abused, when they're trying to fight the fears in their life, when they've overcome, attempting suicide or different disorders. The thing is there's no limits to what we can learn from each other. We just have to be willing to share. We have to be willing to step out there and communicate to our friends, our family, and in some cases, an audience like ours, what we're going through, what we've gone through. So again, I encourage anybody listening today, if you have a story to share, if you've gone through the fire of life and come out the other end and you've learned those life lessons and you want to share them, I'd love for you to reach out to us. That email again is connect@livingfullout.com. And then every show is replayed. You can hear it over and over and over again, plus our whole library of shows. So again, I encourage you to go to livingfullout.com, click on our radio page, and all of that is going to be there for you. We want to support you on your path. Carrie does a great job in supporting children and adults with autism on their journey, on their path, and that's what this show is for. So do connect with us. We want to make sure that you're in good hands, that you stay motivated, and that you're stepping forward every day to those goals and dreams in your life. I know for me, sometimes communicating is tricky. I find sometimes my head goes faster than my words can say. Does anybody relate to that? Because I know I do. I have thoughts in my mind, and sometimes I have to say to myself, okay, how do I want to say this where it's not going to come across pathetic or over-emotional or not sensitive enough, or, it is good to take a minute and before you say something, process it through. Make sure you're choosing the right words. Word choice is so important, both verbally and in written communication. So while we're talking about effective communication today, do pick the style of communicating with that person in your life where you know they're going to get it. Because sometimes that's emails, sometimes it's verbal, and sometimes it's body language. It's a touch, it's a handshake, it's a hug. So we're going to go back to the phone lines now. Welcome to the Living Full Out Show.
Hello.
Welcome. Hi, thank you for calling in. Well, I applaud you for, calling into the show. Honestly, you are a courageous person. I can tell right away. I bet you're out there every day living your life full out in a big way. But of course, the anxiety and sometimes the fear can paralyze us. It can hold us back. And one of the things I want to ask you is the supporters in your life. Are they well in tune with what you go through on a daily basis?
I feel that people are in tune with what I try to function in society as much as possible. I'm very much in the community, getting to know people, getting involved. I was a member of a number of organizations throughout my time in college. I was a part of a Greek organization, and I spent a little bit of time getting to know individuals on a case-by-case basis. And
so when you shared with them about Asperger's, and when you shared with them about what that's like for you on a daily basis, was that helpful?
Correct.
Was that helpful for them to know?
I feel it helps to a certain extent, but at the same time, I'd have to get to know the person because I don't trust people right off the bat with my condition, and I don't disclose it right off because people think, oh, it's Asperger's, and that's why I don't reveal it right away, and I like to get to know the person before I get to trust them. And
well, here's what I want you to consider. I want you to look at that a little closer, okay? Because you are someone worth knowing. Okay? You are someone that so many would love to have in their life. But if they never get the opportunity to get inside your inner circle where you trust them, then they can't get in. Because trust is hard, but sometimes we have to put ourselves out there. Was there a time that you trusted somebody and you got hurt?
Makes sense.
Can you think of a time or somebody where you trusted them?
I would have to say initially, like, I had a hard time trusting my sibling, my sister, because mainly because she didn't understand my situation growing up, and it's sort of like it took a little bit of time for her to understand what I was going, like what my condition was growing up, and then my parents had to educate her a little bit, mainly my mom. And
when she got educated, did it get better, that relationship?
It did. Once we got into college, like, it became more apparent that she understands my situation a little bit better, and I think I have a better relationship in that capacity.
Well, and where I'm going with this is you're a perfect example for us today, okay? Of again, courage, but also living full out, because to be vulnerable, to trust people, even when you don't know how it's going to work out, that actually is a source of strength. And whether it's Asperger's for you, whether it's autism for our inspirational guest, Karen Magra, who is in our last segment, whether it's retinitis pigmentosa, which is being legally blind for me, we have to trust people. We have to let them in, and we have to explain to them, what our condition's like. How do we feel? What are the day-to-day struggles like? Because that is the only way that we can let people in and that we can trust them. And again, I'm not saying necessarily that if you go out there and you welcome everybody in, that all your fears and anxieties are going to go away. I'm not saying that. But when you do allow yourself to let others in, when you are able to educate people, it's kind of like when you're having a hard day, those people will lift you up. Those people will have more insight to help you. So when you're having a day where you just need that support, maybe you need support in school, maybe you need someone to help cook a meal or do an errand or, run and get you something, health-wise. People want to do that. They want to do that for you, but they only can do that if you let them in. And the last thing I want to say to you is, what brings you joy? What actually makes you happy?
So growing up, I've always been into like cooking and getting to explore new things in various farmers markets and meeting with different suppliers of different health foods, because I started a health food business in college initially when I was in community college, but then I ended up having to put those aside, and I ended up going to a 4-year institution called Chapman University, and that's what that's what school took the primary aspect from my dynamics, and that's what took precedence. And
so hold on a second. So we want to go. We want to take 2 steps back. You're telling me your career goals and all that, which is great, and I know you're going to be good at them. But go one step back. What brings you joy? What fills you up inside? What makes your heart feel warm? What makes you smile? What is that?
I enjoy being with like-minded individuals who understand my disability, and people like my parents who have been supportive. So I like to surround myself with people who understand my disability and they don't treat me like a baby.
Okay, and look at that. The thing that brings you the most joy is when you are in circles and groups that get your disability, that understand your pains and your struggles, right? That brings you joy. That gives you security and comfort. Now, that's exactly what you and I were talking about in the very beginning. So here's what I'm trying to say. That safe pocket, what brings you joy, I promise you that the anxieties will start to fade. They may never go away, but they will lessen. And so I want you to walk away today and just open yourself up more, be more vulnerable, be more trusting. Talk to one person today about Asperger's and educate them. Just every day try to grow that support team. Okay?
All right. Sounds like a plan.
All right. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Nancy.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I want to thank everybody calling in today. Really great questions, and we'll be taking your calls again next week. That number, again, if you jot it down, is 800-333-0001. And again, if you want to hear the replay of this show, go to livingfullout.com. Just click on the radio tab, and you can listen to the replay as well as all the library of our shows. And I want to thank Kerry Magro, our inspirational guest, sharing with us about his walk, his journey with autism, and just how much resources are actually out there. I want to thank our team here in the studio. We have Mindy and Maya and Rich. We're all here to motivate you, move you forward each week. Truly, from my heart to yours, I'm wishing you all a great day. Here's to you living your life full out. We'll be back next week. And don't forget, call us or email us if you have any questions. That's what we're here for. Go to livingfullout.com or call us at 310-909-7800 or connect with us at connect@livingfullout.com. Have a great day.